Hello YouTube, Vlogger Eric's Rants here, and this week I'm making one of several video responses to Kent Hovind. He's doing all of these Q&A videos on his channel, and there are a few questions that I'm interested in hearing his response to. So I'll play parts of the clip, and as we go through this part of the video starting at 4 minutes 20, I'll destroy his lunacy as he spews it. So let's begin.
Question. One of the only things I had trouble explaining now I'm asking you is about this. Why are 70% of the 334 species of marsupials only found in Australia?
This is a question that I've decided to see how Kent Hovind responds to. Also, there are a couple of things he says which show he is not a Bible literalist. He cherry picks, just like the rest of the Christians. We'll show that very shortly. But sorry Kent, I interrupted. Please continue.
Well, that's an interesting... I think I will get my globe for this one. Oh, there. And I do believe the world is round, by the way.
And right here, Mr. Hovind here says that he believes a globe earth. The globe earth is contradicted by the following couple of Bible verses. Now, if you go to apologist websites, they will claim that the first verse I cite doesn't say anything about a flat earth. However, it is definitely implied. And after these things I saw 4 angels standing on the 4 corners of the earth, holding the 4 winds of the earth, that the wind should not blow on the earth, nor on the sea, nor on any tree. Revelation 7:1. These next 3 verses, also according to apologist websites, talk about a globe earth, not a flat earth. However, a circle is a 2D object, a flat object. As you will see in these verses, the Bible definitely talks about the earth being flat. Do you not know? Have you not heard? Has it not been told you from the beginning? Have you not understood since the earth was founded? He sits enthroned above the circle of the earth, and its people are like grasshoppers. He stretches out the heavens like a canopy, and spreads them out like a tent to live in. Isaiah 40:21-22, King James Version. I was there when he set the heavens in place, when he marked out the horizon on the face of the deep. Proverbs 8:27. So Kent Hovind here is already contradicting the stories that he claims to believe in literally. So yes, Kent Hovind does cherry pick the Bible, just not quite as much as others. So let's continue on.
Certain parts of it are flat. Kansas, that's flat. Nebraska, mostly flat.
Kent, you fail at trying to be funny.
So, but that's another story. I think a couple of atheists started the rumor, or started this whole flat Earth, I think, modern resurgence of the flat Earth thing, and they're having a blast laughing at Christians for following this. That's my humble opinion. I think I can document that one of these days.
Actually, from what I've seen, it's been Christians who have been popularizing the flat Earth myth, Kent. Jeranism, for example.
But in the meantime, Australia, for those geographically challenged folks, is down here. Okay. Between Australia and Vietnam, the water is really, really shallow for the most part. I mean, there's a few deep channels, but as a general rule, it's only 30 or 40, 50 feet deep.
That's still pretty deep, Kent. And while yes, the Gulf of Carpentaria isn't very deep, relatively speaking. After all, during the last ice age, Australia was connected to Indonesia, along with parts of the South China Sea, mainly the Gulf, Thailand being only about 50 meters deep. The majority of the South China Sea is much deeper, getting up to 5.5 kilometers deep in some places. And then you have the problem of the New Zealand animals, which had to cross a much deeper Tasman Sea, most of the sea being 2 to 3 kilometers deep.
There's a whole lot of shallow water in here where all these islands are, the Indonesian islands, Java, Borneo, etc. This area, if you lowered the oceans just, say, 50 feet, Australia would probably be connected, or very nearly connected, a few rivers in between, with Asia. So I cover this on video number 6 of my series, which is over on the table there. Coming out again soon, by the way. Same series, but a whole lot cheaper. We're going to make it for those who want to get it for Christmas to give to their friends. With a bonus DVD, my 3-on-1 debate is going to be in there. That was a fun one. 3 professors against me. So to answer your question, I believe shortly after the flood in the days of Noah, the ice caps, North and South Pole, were much larger. And I cover that in why in video number 6. Larger ice caps, of course, is going to trap a lot of water and store it. Well, that's going to lower the ocean level. If the oceans, which average 12,000 feet deep, if they were 50 feet or maybe 100 feet or 200 feet lower than today, almost everything is connected in the world. Between Alaska and Asia, Russia up here, it's only like 60 feet deep for the most part in this area. So lowering the oceans 100 feet would make this all connected. You could just walk from Russia to Alaska. You wouldn't need a boat at all.
Actually, you'd be slipping across, as the ice would form the land bridge between Russia and Alaska.
And between Australia and Asia, Southeast Asia, it would be all connected. One big, huge, get the light on there just right here. Okay. This would be one big, huge peninsula, as opposed to an island continent, Australia.
I'll link you to a map of what the world looked like at the height of the last ice age 14,000 years ago, when sea levels were much lower than what Kent Hovind quoted about the water level after the flood. And looking at the picture, Australia is not connected to Vietnam. There isn't much water between the two landmasses, but there is water nonetheless. Sorry, Kent, but you've failed again.
Well, my theory would be, and I think a lot of other people would agree, that the oceans used to be lower, which is why we have a continental shelf around nearly all of the continents, hence the name continental shelf.
Well, that claim checks out. However, I should point out that it takes a lot longer to create the continental shelves than what Kent believes.
If you walk out the beach here in Florida, you get into the water, you go out, it doesn't get up to chin deep until you go out 200 yards. It's real shallow for the most part. And you have to go out several hundred miles before it gets 200 feet deep. And then all of a sudden it drops off into what's called the abyss, the deep part of the ocean. So the oceans have two parts, the deep part called the abyss and the shallow part called the continental shelf. Who cares? Get an earth science book or just look up continental shelf. You'll see what I'm talking about.
Okay, now here I'm going to suspend my knowledge of the impossibility of the global flood and just accept it for the sake of argument here. Just so the viewers know.
To answer your question, I believe after the flood, the critters got off of the ark, which landed right here in Turkey, where Turkey meets Armenia and Iraq. Right here, Mount Ararat, that's all covered about Noah's Ark on video number 6 of my series.
If Noah's Ark did run aground on Mount Ararat, any evidence for it would have been destroyed by the anywhere from 2 to 7 volcanic eruptions that have occurred in the last 4,400 years.
The animals got off the ark and started spreading out around the world. There would be what's called a migration wave, spread out. The circle would enlarge as they move out and take over new territory. As they have more and more children, they got to have more land. That's standard. Okay. Well, after the flood, these animals are spreading out. But now if you read Genesis chapter 9, God said to Noah, now you can eat meat. From the creation of the world up until the flood, everything was vegetarian, including all the animals. Genesis 1, 28 and 29, or 29 and 30.
And this is another absurdity in the Bible. In fact, it would leave a certain species of Venus flytrap, can't remember the specific species, irreducibly complex because its structure is useless for catching and digesting plants. However, we can chart the evolution of this Venus flytrap to trap things like flies. Sorry, Kent, this claim doesn't check out. And you can't quote the Bible. The Bible is one great big fan fiction made up of many fanfics from anonymous authors writing decades after the supposed death of Jesus.
After the flood, God said, Noah, you can eat meat now. And so man began eating meat, and he said, Noah, all the animals are going to be afraid of you. I think this, for whatever reason, is when the animals started eating each other, and people started eating animals, which is perfectly fine. And so the more aggressive animals would tend to take over the territory. If a grizzly bear moves into the neighborhood, the less aggressive animals move out rather than fight the grizzly bear. So the more aggressive animals would tend to dominate, which is always the case. The less aggressive would tend to migrate away. So over the next few hundred years, the less aggressive animals, and marsupials for the most part, are less aggressive. Kangaroos would not stand would not stand very well in a fight against a panther, let's say.
Are you sure, Kent? Roos can be very dangerous when they're defending themselves. They've badly injured several people, and a roo even killed a hunter back in 1936. And we do have predator and prey animals, more aggressive and less aggressive according to your sloppy language, living in the same areas. It's why the zebra and the African lion can live in the same place, despite the zebra being much less aggressive than the lion. You see this all over the world. But of course, Kent's ignorance, and maybe stupidity to a degree, wouldn't allow him to see this.
So they are migrating away from Noah's Ark, and they just happen to move this direction as a general rule.
Just as a by the way, why don't we see kangaroo fossils, platypus fossils, echidna fossils, etc. in Indonesia, Papua New Guinea, Malaysia, India, China, Iraq, or Turkey, huh? At some point, members of those species would have died while radiating out towards Australia. Why do we see no fossils, Kent?
This is my Hovind theory on that. At the same time, everything's migrating away, which will take several hundred years. The oceans are getting deeper from the ice melting. As the ice melts back from Kansas City, Missouri, where the Ice Age obviously came all the way down to here, as the ice melts back, the oceans get deeper, and at some point, Australia becomes isolated simply by the rising ocean levels. And I think it just so happened that the less aggressive animals, a lot of them, the marsupials, to answer your question, ended up there and got protected, got isolated, got saved from the bad guys by the rising ocean levels.
And almost no evidence is provided, as typical of Hovind. It is not a theory, Hovind, it is a hypothesis with very little to back it up, except the continental shelf, which would take a lot longer to form, and the fact that the marsupials are already there. By the way, are you implying that clownfish are more aggressive than seals? That the Tasmanian devil is less aggressive than the yellow-footed rock wallaby? Or the Tasmanian tiger before we hunted it to extinction? And how about the moa bird, or the kiwi, both from New Zealand? Yet the Tasman Sea is much deeper than the Gulf of Carpentaria, for example. How did they get to the Ark, Kent? Anyway, he goes on with other questions. That'd be the question I wanted to cover today. I'll leave it there. I have other videos on Kent Hovind coming, and already on the channel, so stay tuned. I also have a playlist of videos on Kent Hovind, so please check that out. Link in the description. If you have seen to the end of this video, then put in the comments, #aggressive clownfish. So that is my video for today. I hope you found it insightful. Please rate, comment, share and subscribe, and have a great day, everyone.